So you guys probably already know I talk so much about different Androids, iPhones, all that stuff. I talk a lot about tablets, but I don't think I've ever reviewed a Samsung Galaxy Tab before. So I've owned Galaxy tablets before. I think the Samsung Galaxy Tab something, I don't remember, it was a long time ago. But this is the first time I'm reviewing one, and it happens to be the brand new one, so I'm happy to look at it. I really don't think anybody really cares about it anymore because it's been out for a couple months now. But I was actually pretty surprised about this tablet because, I really didn't know too much about them. Again, like I said, I owned one before, and I think definitely there's a lot of pros. There's not that many cons, especially with a tablet like this. I mean, it's a very, very, very good tablet, I think. And for an Android tablet, I've had, Nexus tablets. I think I've owned the Nexus 9, that was a good one. I think that was probably one of the last Android tablets I owned. But this is by far a really good, all features in, tablet, which is something I really do like. Now, if you want to pick one of these up, I'll find the cheapest one on Amazon, link it down in the description below. You can get it from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, looking on the front of the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7, we have a massive 11-inch IPS panel, and I can definitely tell you, this is a really good sized tablet. It really reminds me of the iPad Pro that I own, the 3rd gen, and there's really not that many differences in terms of the build quality. They're almost exactly the same, and I was picking this tab up, and I was actually like, wow, this thing reminds me of my iPhone. Like, it's almost just like a bigger iPhone, but I remembered the iPads are just like the iPads were like this before, so definitely it's a good size screen. I wish it wasn't OLED. Samsung makes really good OLED panels, and I could have sworn some of these tabs had OLED panels, but I guess not. This thing has an IPS panel, and the resolution is good. It's still kind of a low PPI, but it's still perfectly fine for this big of a panel. You have a front-facing camera and a little bezel around it for a tablet. Again, if it was like a phone or something, it'd be massive, but for it being a tablet, I totally understand. You have a USB Type-C port on the bottom, which is really, really cool, which supports Samsung DeX. Now, I think that's a really awesome thing because for a tablet like this, typically you're not going to put it in your pocket. It's pretty much like a professional type of device, so you can go and utilize Samsung DeX with this massive screen, so you kind of, have like a full desktop experience within this tablet, which is really awesome. And on the back, you have that aluminum build with a little kind of stylish support for the S Pen that the Tab S7 holds, and I think that's really cool. Now, unfortunately, the S Pen that comes equipped with it isn't as featureful as something like the S Pen that the Note 20s come with, as far as I know. So that was something that I saw, but still, regardless, this is a really good size, S Pen. It's massive, and the fact that it comes pre-installed in the box is awesome. With, Apple Pencils, we have to buy them separate, which is kind of annoying, but totally understandable. And then you have that dual camera setup on the back, which I can go and hit on right now, which, first of all, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if a lot of people are going to continuously use these type of cameras for these type of devices, if I'm being honest. Like, of course, this is a pretty decent camera setup for both the front and the back, but I really don't think anybody's planning on shooting, like crazy, cinema quality photos or videos from their tablet. It's just more so of things just like, video calls, FaceTime or face calls. There's no FaceTime on this thing. Google Hangouts, Zoom calls, all that stuff. You'll pretty much be able to do it with a tablet like this. Now, it has a 13 megapixel wide angle lens, then that 5 megapixel ultra wide sensor. Now, I think they honestly just threw that ultra wide sensor in here just to make it look like it had a dual camera setup. It does have a dual camera setup. I don't know if it's going to be super useful though. The UI of the camera isn't as great or as functional as something like the one I'm getting on my Galaxy S20 or even my Galaxy S10. One UI 2.5, which this phone, which this tablet has a lot of features. It has Pro Mode and all that stuff, which I really do like, but it just seems like this tablet is missing out on some things that the Note 20 has. Now, you do have things like 4K at 30, which is awesome. You don't have, obviously, any crazy things, 4K at 60, no 8K capability, but totally okay for a tablet. And I will tell you, for a tablet camera, this thing's actually pretty good. I love how Samsung just throws every feature they have basically into a tablet. So for sure, when it comes down to it, this is a really good camera for a tablet. On the front, you have an 8 megapixel single camera setup. You can do 1080p videos on that. And like I said before, when it comes down to it, the fact that this thing has a camera is good enough for me. And it's been out for a couple months now, so I'm pretty sure a lot of people have already done camera reviews and everything. Unfortunately, with tablets, it just seems like they always give it watered down cameras, watered down features, or cameras that came out 2 or 3 generations ago. They put it on here. I understand it's not a priority, but it's very interesting how most phone manufacturers, including Samsung, spend a lot of time and spend a lot of their website, layout when a new phone comes out, talking about the cameras. And it's weird with tablets, they don't do that. So I never understood why they do that, but it is what it is. So in terms of the camera and even in terms of the outside, that really pretty much covers it up for the most part. This is a really good feeling, premium feeling tablet. I love the flat sides on it, just like how on my iPad. So In terms of the software though, this is probably one of my least favorite things about this. As I've said before, I feel like, this is just a bigger version of One UI 2.5, just like how iPadOS is just a bigger version of, iOS. And I've never really been a fan. I wish they just had their own dedicated thing. You can change the name, you can do whatever, but I wish there were some cooler features and some bigger things that, tablets had over phones. I feel like we're still not there yet. But, it's a good UI for the most part if you're trying to talk about features. This thing has a lot of features built in, which is nice. And luckily, this thing has that 120 Hz refresh rate on the panel as well, which is another huge asset for it. So you have that motion smoothness factor, which adds a lot of capability for sure, and it makes the tablet feel that much smoother. I feel like if it didn't have that, this tablet could be stuttering all over the place. That's what I tend to see for a lot of Android tablets that I've owned. But for sure, that refresh rate increase and the overall features that you're getting is awesome. I'm just not a fan of the skinned UI that, One UI 2.5 has. But regardless, I will tell you, for sure when it comes down to it, the UI, the overall everything about this device, gives it okay for me, I guess. Now moving on to the performance side of things, this thing has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 Plus chipset, octa-core CPU, Adreno 650 GPU, and a couple of different models. So the base model has 6 gigs of RAM, the mid-tier model has 8 gigs of RAM, and that top-tier model has 8 gigs of RAM as well. Now there's a microSD card slot support on this device as well, so you can easily go and expand the storage to whatever you want to, which is really awesome. So I will definitely tell you, when it comes down to that aspect, this tablet has a lot of capability straight out of the box, which is cool, and the performance of it is really, really good too for the most part. Anything I did with it, again, I'm not going to go and use this thing for 3 months and then talk about it. I'm just going to tell you straight from when I used it. I can kind of get a good grasp on whether it's a good performing tablet, a bad performing tablet, and some, things that come out to me. And I can definitely tell you, if you're someone who's like a student and you want to go and use a tablet, you want to use an iPad, and you want to use one of these things basically as a main device, I'll definitely tell you with something like a Galaxy Tab S7, you'll have a perfectly good experience with it. And what's really cool about these type of tablets is that you're getting a ginormous screen, but you're also getting a lot of features built in natively. And because Google makes Android, a lot of the apps that you're probably already going to use are already coming pre-built. Things like Google Docs, Google Drive, Google Sheets, whatever you're realistically going to be doing as a student or as a content creator at a lower level, it's going to be perfectly fine. And even if you're trying to go take it up a notch, I think these type of devices are going to be perfectly okay too. And I have always felt like Android has had the up and up when it comes down to the apps that you can install, the features that come straight out of the box. Androids have always had more features, in my opinion, than iPads, and that's a really important thing to say. So if you're trying to get something that's going to have the most amount of features or that's going to last you the longest, the iPad is probably going to last you longer, but the Android side with the Galaxy Tab S7, you're probably going to have more features. But again, longevity, if we're talking about that, the iPads are going to do you better. And I feel like this tablet is going to be lasting for a couple versions of Android for sure. It's probably going to get Android 11. It's definitely getting that Android 12, then Android 13. And it's probably going to end off in Android 13, maybe Android 14, probably not unless Samsung changes something up. So realistically, it could end on Android 13, which I think is okay too. So definitely when it comes down to the performance, it's a great performing tablet. You can see from my performance, you can see from anything you're realistically going to do, it's going to be perfectly fine. And I don't really have too much to say on top of that. So in terms of performance, that pretty much covers it up. Now ending it off with the battery life, this thing has a 8,000 mAh battery inside of it, which is a massive size battery for these type of tablets. It's not a crazy super high resolution panel. It's big, but it's not like an insane amount. It's a big panel for sure, but because it does have, one of the newest chipsets and it's supposed to be more optimized and everything, and because it has a super big battery inside of it, that really does add a lot more capability behind it. So the battery life, from what I've seen, from what I've tested, was perfectly fine, and I actually did like it a lot. So to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, should you go and still pick up the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7, which is yeah, obviously pick it up, but kind of just, I want to, hit on my experience now. The Tab S7, I think for a lot of people is a really good Android tablet. I think there's not that much to complain about. I think when I used it, and comparing it to a lot of other devices, even comparing it to some cheap laptops and cheap MacBooks that you could also buy, I think the Tab S7 isn't a bad device. It is kind of pricey though, so keep that in mind. It's definitely not like a $200 option like the Tab A7 is or whatever that one is. It's definitely a pretty expensive option for the most part, but again, for that expensive price, you're getting a really good build quality. This tablet feels like a very premium machine because it is a premium machine. You're getting a couple different options for the RAM side. You're getting a microSD card slot support, which that in and of itself on a tablet really adds a lot more capability. On a phone, it's really cool and stuff, but because you have that that type of capability on a tablet like this, you can pretty much just have endless amount of storage and just keep expanding it with micro SD card slots, swap one out, put in another. And that's a really cool thing that you have in these type of tablets. So that in and of itself can probably increase the longevity of it. One of my favorite things on this Galaxy Tab, just thought of it, is the Samsung DeX. I mean, that's something that's really awesome. You're getting a desktop-like experience from the tab, just putting it on a monitor, just, having it someplace else. I mean, you can probably replace a lot that you would do on a computer, like a dedicated laptop, a dedicated MacBook, whatever, on just this tablet, even with that desktop experience. So that gives you a little bit of a different, angle of, oh, here's what I do on my tablet, here's what I do on my desktop, even though it's still being portrayed from your tablet, which is really cool. This thing has camera support. This thing has, an S Pen built into the box, not built into the box, but you can win in the box, which is really awesome. And the only thing I really wish this tablet had was an OLED panel. iPads don't have OLED panels either, so if this thing gets it, that would be awesome. And, the camera setup isn't that great, but again, not a lot of people are, using it all the time. But I also do wish there was some type of S Pen built into the tab itself and not necessarily on the outside of the tablet. That's kind of another thing that really annoys me. I wish it just was like you could slide it in, just like how you could do on the S Pen on the Note series. I feel like with it dangling out, just like how we have it on the iPads, I find it really annoying, and I do wish that it had a little bit more capability when it came down to inputting that straight into the body itself. But in terms of that really pretty much covers up my experience with the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my other channels. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.